Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Whether we are out riding with our friends and family or racing in extreme environments, we all need good tires. That's why I recommend GBC Power Sports Tires, a division of Greenball Corp. Their products, which include XC Master, Mini Master, and Groundbuster 3, are what leading professionals in the ATV-UTV industry are using. You can get your tires at greenballtires.com or find them on Instagram as GBC Tires for further inquiries. Santo DeRisi, welcome to ATV Talk, man. I don't know exactly how long it's been since I seen you, but it's been a long time.
Man, it's been a very long time. I'd say that for sure.
I think I had blonde hair last time I saw you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't have long hair or any of that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, we were younger, a lot younger.
A lot. I'm 45 now, so geez, it's been. I think my last full season was 2010. It's been a long time.
So you've been off the machine for 13 years?
13 years.
Wow. Just to ask, how do you deal with that, and does it affect you when you're going to the races and you're helping some of these guys?
Yeah, it really does. Because we'll go to the race and stuff, and it'll be a beautiful day, and we'll go out walking around and stuff and look at the track, and the track conditions are like prime, and the weather's nice, and man, it just eats at me just wanting to be out there and back racing and competing again, and it makes it hard. But then when you do it for a living and do it for all these other people that are out there winning and doing well, it kind of helps fill that void just a little bit. It kind of, when they win, it kind of makes me feel like I won, but it's still not the same as me being back on the track, but it is hard.
Yeah. I don't think that once you've been a racer, and I was never a professional, like at your level, but once you've been a racer and you've stopped, there's no substitute for being on the machine.
No, I tried, and I'm not going to lie. I tried, I bought a super sport street bike and tried a little bit of that, and, been doing some mountain biking and stuff like that, and man, it's so hard. Like, I've tried so many different things to fill that void of me racing, and I just can't figure it out. It's nothing replaces that. And I don't think anything ever will.
I was talking to Doug Eichner because he went from ATVs to UTVs, and right before he stopped racing altogether, he told me, he says, yeah, there's just no substitute. He says, the UTVs, I says, I'll go race a great race. I can win the race, and I'm unfulfilled.
Right.
There's nothing like it. And once you've stepped away, you can't go back.
No, you can't. I quit, and I came back, and I raced a few races here or there locally, and I finished really well and stuff. But to ever go back and try to train and try to race pro, or even anything even close to pro, A class, any of that at this point in my life, I know there's no way. Like, I could never get to that level again ever in my lifetime. And that's tough. It's hard to accept that.
It is. It is. Even at my level, I'm so far off the pace, and I don't want to hit the jumps, and there's just so many things that I don't want to do. Yeah. I'm dealing with a physical injury as well that I never took care of correctly, which is my own fault. So kids, If you're listening to this, go to the doctor when you get hurt, get taken care of, do it right. When the doctor says, don't ride, do all the things you're supposed to do, because when you get older, you want to still be able to do them.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I feel a lot more of it now than I used to. That's for sure.
Well, I fell off in Idaho in, I want to say, '02.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ride in France 2 weeks after the Idaho race so bad that I didn't go to the doctor and get my dislocated shoulder checked out. Well, it turns out it wasn't dislocated, it was broken.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's not
I never went to it took me 10 years to go to the doctor.
right.
And yeah, they said, well, yeah, when you broke your shoulder. And I go, dude, I never broke my shoulder. And he
Right.
goes, yeah, you did, because it's right here in the picture. And I'm like, well, oops.
Oh yeah, that was me. I was the same way. In about 97 or 98, I was racing motocross on my dirt bike, and I would do a lot of cross training and racing and stuff. And I went through a whoop section and lost it, hyperextended my knee, and went to the doctor. And we were mid season, racing GNCC at that time too, and I was in the points and stuff. And so I went to the doctor, and he grabs my leg, and he pulls it apart, and he's like, oh yeah. He's like, yep, you have torn stuff in there and we need to do surgery. And I'm like, okay, well, my first question to him was, how long am I going to be out for? And he's like, oh, minimum 6 months. And I'm like, yeah, probably not going to happen. So I walked out the door at that point, went home, let it heal just for a little bit, started, working out, trying to do some strength training on my leg, and got it back to feeling good again, and went back to racing. And now still to this day, it hurts. And I went to the doctor, I don't know, it was probably 6-8 months ago, and let a specialist look at it. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, you got a torn PCL. And he's like, you need to go to Charlotte for that. He's like, this is out of my league. He's like, you need to go there and get it looked at. And you're probably going to have surgery. And I'm like, so I put it back to the back of my mind again. I've just been kind of dealing with it, but it's something probably eventually I need to get it fixed, because it is my leg. And one day I'm probably not going to be able to walk if I don't do something about it.
Well, yeah, hey, I have this shoulder deal, and they said they want to replace it.
Ooh.
And the replacement means no more bicycles, no more
Yep.
motorcycles, no more ATVs, no more weights. And I asked the guy, so what kind of life do you have? And he goes, well, you won't have any pain. And I go, if you got a little bit of pain in your life, it means you're alive.
Right.
And he goes, well, when you can't handle it 5 out of 7 days a week, you come back and see me and I'll fix you.
Right.
And I said, well, I can handle it 5 out of 7 days, so we're good.
Yeah. Same.
It's those 2 days. Way. It's those 2 days a week, usually when I'm not working, that it bothers me.
Yeah, I know.
So let's get back on the Santo train and hear, how did all of this ATV racing come about for you?
Man, so I don't know, I was like 16 years old. A couple of my buddies, one of my friends, Noel Cook, he used to race GNCC as well. And my brother, he had bought an old Kawasaki. I think it was like a 92 or something Kawasaki Mojave, and brought it home one day. And I was in high school, and he brought it home, and I started riding it, and I didn't own a four wheeler at the time. And I started riding that, and we was on summer break for school. And man, I rode that thing every day. I mean, rode. And I was like, gosh, I love it. And I was talking to my dad and trying to talk him into let me race. And he was so against it. And then Noel rode with me a little bit. He's like, man, you're riding really good. He's like, we really need to try to get your dad talked into letting you race. And so he started working on dad a little bit, and we started, we were begging and everything. And finally dad was like, okay, well, we'll try it. And actually I ended up getting, so I rode at my hobby for a while. And then I talked again, I don't know how we pulled all this off. Ended up getting a 250R, and taught my dad into letting me race. So we went to Mid-East Air Scrambles right here, just a local series here. Went to a Mid-East in Hickory, raced my first race in like the beginners. It was called Trail Riders class back then. And I raced it, and I finished third in class. And I was like, man, this is fun. And after that first race, my dad got hooked and he's like, man, this is really cool too. And man, it kind of went from there. And my dad was all in, my mom was all in. And I mean, we went from like nothing to racing like crazy. And we did, I did the Mid East, all of 93, all of 94. And then 95, we finally talked Dad into going national racing. So we went to GNCC racing in 95. And first race there was in Ocala, Florida. And I'll never forget it, man. It was first race I ever done, first national, whatever. And, you know, I ran open B class. And at that time, actually, I got a Banshee. I had a Banshee I was riding. And man, I'm going to tell you what, I raced that race and I was on the track. I think my finish time was right at 3 hours. And boy, I was dead. I remember coming in off the track, and actually my first national, I finished second. I got second in open B, was like literally seconds off the leader. But I was about to die when I finished. Like I laid out, it was hot because it was down in Florida and I was toast. But it kind of all started from there and it just went crazy. We went nuts for years on that.
How long did it take you to get off that Banshee?
God, you know, people were telling me too, they were like, you're a little guy. You don't need to be riding the Yamaha Banshee. That's a lot of bike for you. You need to be riding a 250R. You need to be, and you know, the whole time I still had that 88 250R we bought. And I cannot, to be honest with you, without looking back, I can't remember what year, like when I switched. I kept the 88 forever. And there was a race, you know, like we were struggling. We're really struggling to get good finishes. And my Banshee we had some mechanical issues, and it was right before a national. And I was to the point I had no choice. I'm like, okay, I'm either going to sit this race out or I'm going to ride the Honda 250. We're like, well, you know, we're going to ride the 250. Brought the 250 out. And I remember, I think it was Hard Rock, GNCC, I rode it. Pulled it out. I rode like a little bit at our property here before we went to the race, just kind of get back used to it again. Went to the race and had like the best finish all year, like that I had from the start of the season until I rode the 250 that day. I rode the 250 and I'm like, damn, this is it. I'm like, I can't believe I've been riding a Banshee. I really need to be back on the Honda. And so I finished the season out on Honda, and like all the finishes after that was like better, better, better. So after that, man, we started building 250s, and we went Honda after that for a while. And, you know, we had a Lager Banshee. I built a full Lager Pro Tracks Banshee, had all the bells and whistles with you know, as much of the Honda geometry we could get on it. And it's still just with the weight, my body size being small, the 250 just really fit me so much better. And that's when my career got, you know, I did a lot better in my career was when we switched over.
Yep. I can totally see it. Coonley was the only one that I can ever remember riding a Banshee that ever had success.
Yeah. Yeah. He had a lot of good success. He was fast on that. He was a good rider on that thing.
But he wasn't a little bitty guy either, was he?
No, he wasn't. He was a pretty good sized dude for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember the stories. I only got to meet him once, you know,
right.
But we talked to Bob, and Bob would tell you all about it and this, that, and the other thing. And I mean, it was pretty awesome. But no, I would have advised you to get off that thing in the woods as well, because back then it was really woods racing.
It was. It was a lot.
Tight technical bushes. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Banshee was just so heavy. The weight difference was unreal. I mean, we have a motocross track down here on our property that I always practiced at and stuff. And, you know, I was used to hitting like all my doubles and jumps and stuff like that on the Banshee. And then I would take the 250 out, and I would literally, like the first couple laps, I would over jump everything because the bike was that much lighter and you could feel the difference in the weight. So I would over jump. I have to train my thoughts on, you know, every jump that I hit, you know, my speed, entry speed, and all that kind of stuff, because I was over jumping things. So the weight difference was so much different on that thing.
Yeah, but they sure do go fast, don't they?
Oh yeah, that they did. That they did. And I do have to add, you know, my career definitely took a really big jump. You guys stepped in and helped my program a lot. You and Lauren picked me up, and I started running you guys' motors, and you guys helped me with a lot of stuff throughout my career. And we had a lot of success there towards the end of the 250R days before they forced us to go to the 4-strokes. So I definitely wanted to add that. You guys have been, a really big part of my career there on the 250s.
Well, we appreciate that. I mean, I remember the Lobos, and everybody would be building them. And I don't think that you came out to the shop.
I didn't.
Yeah, but the Pages
Yep.
did, and Matt did, and Jay Goebel did.
Yep.
We had quite a few of you guys roll through there. We had a empty unit across from where we had ours, and at that time, Lauren would make a deal with the landlord, and they would go in there and just start making piles. And they put a name tag or a piece of cardboard with a name, and they would just keep adding to the piles, of what was going to get shipped or what was going to get picked up by everybody for the
Right.
year. And then it would all, obviously your stuff either got brought to you or shipped.
Right.
And it was always a huge undertaking, how this all went down.
Oh.
I wish we had cell phones back then, because there's just so much that people don't grasp or understand of actually what the industry was like back then. I mean, it was all,
I know.
There was no factories. It was all self-supported, and the support you got was actually huge.
Oh, I know. It's changed a lot throughout the years. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, now you're an independent, and you have your own company, and you sponsor your own guys. And you have a little more feel and a little more understanding some of the stuff Lauren went through.
Right. Oh, that I do. That I do for sure.
When you switched to the 4-strokes, what did you switch to?
So in 2004 is when they made a switch. It was a GNCC rule that we had to ride 4-strokes. The pros did, and at the beginning of the season, the only thing that was out was the Yamaha. There was the 2004 Yamaha YFZ 450. So I started the season out on that, and rode that. And then when the Honda came out, I bought one of those as well, and piddled with it a little bit on the backside, while we were racing the Yamaha. And then I think it was about 3/4 of the way through the season, I just felt better on the Honda. And, about 3/4 of the way through the season, I switched, if I remember correctly. And I finished the season out on the Honda.
Has the TRX 450 ever won the GNCC title?
Trying to think.
I don't think so, because it goes Very Hawk, Balance, Borich, Fowler. Yeah. And they were all either Suzuki's or Yamahas. Hawk rode a 250R.
Right. Yeah, because I guess since Barry Hawk won, I think everything's been Yamaha ever since, if I remember correctly.
I don't even know, has a Honda won?
Because Borch rode a Honda for a while.
Yeah, but all of his titles were on Suzuki.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had the thing wired in. He had that Suzuki dial, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he did, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, he's on Yamaha now.
Did you stay on the Honda platform your whole rest of your career?
I did. I stayed Honda the whole rest of the career.
Did you stay on the 0405 version, or did you ever switch to the 06 up?
I switched to the 06 up. We were running 24 volt, on it, and with the electric start. And it just, again, it fit me better. For some reason, it felt lighter and steered a little easier to me, I thought. And when I quit was pretty much when the fuel injected Yamahas came out. So I never really got to race one of those much. We built quite a bit of them, through the shop, in these past years, but I never really got to race one much.
Well, do you do some of the test riding on them, or do you have the riders do it?
Mostly the riders. I do every now and again, but it's been quite a while since I've really tested anything much, myself. I really don't have time much anymore. Usually I'm in the, we're in the shop building motors and suspension and stuff like that. So really don't have that much time.
Was the transition from racer to owning the business a struggle?
Yeah, kind of. Again, because, if you would have asked me years ago, I would have told you that I was going to race until I physically couldn't anymore. I mean, racing was always my passion and I loved it. And, I really thought that I was going to race well up in my 50s and 60s possibly, because I just thought I was going to do it for a very long time. But, and like I said, in 2010, business was growing and, it was getting to be too much. I couldn't focus on training and running the business and being good at both of them at the same time, and then I was, at the time, 2010, I mean, I had my kids, I had 2 kids at that time and stuff like that. So it was just really hard to juggle, all of that together. And so, yeah, I mean, it was hard to step down from racing. It was very hard, but I knew deep down that it was a decision that I had to make. Unfortunately.
How did your wife take it when you quit?
I mean, she was bummed too, just because, I mean, she was I see a lot of people and, their wives hate it. And I have guys that come to the shop or they'll call me and they'll spend all this money on their stuff. And they're like, hey, if you see my wife, don't tell her what I spent, or don't, like they're hiding it from her. And, my wife was always the supportive one. Like, we would go down to the test track and she was the one there yelling at me that, my lap times have got to get quicker. And she's, clicking the stopwatch every lap, seeing what the lap times are and pushing me. And she, the days that I didn't feel like going to practice, she's like, hey, you got sponsors and you got people out there that's pulling for you. You got to get your ass out there and practice, because that's the only way you're going to get better. So she was always a supportive one and the one that was always pushing me hard. So needless to say, she didn't take it very well either, but she knew, we both talked about it, and she knew that in order for the business to grow and to get it to where we needed it to be, it was a step that we had to take. So it was tough.
Well, yeah, it is. I want to ask you some questions about bike setup, if you don't mind. That's a little off topic, but when you're developing a woods machine, you got to figure it come from the West Coast, rocks, dust, that's our thing. You guys spend a lot of time in the mud, and with the modern Yamaha, I've seen some after race photos. Josh Merritt's posted them. Some other guys have, and their filters are dry. How do you keep the filter still getting air and keep all the muck off of it?
Well, I mean, we don't run airbox lids, just like I'm sure you guys don't as well. But we'll run like a Twin Air or a Pro Design Air, good foam air filter. And then we'll run like an outerwear cover over the filter. And then where the airbox lid would go, we have a thin, like probably a 2-inch thick piece of like coarse. It's actually was originally developed for like skid plate foam. And we use that on the top of the airbox where the air filter or the airbox lid would go. And we just put a light coat of air filter spray on oil on the very top of it. And man, I'm gonna tell you, we ran some nasty dusty races and we ran some nasty muddy races. And usually 9 times out of 10, after we pull the bike apart and we pull the foam off and the filter off, and we look at everything, the filters usually almost looks like we just oiled it and put it on. And as well as I do, building all these motors, I mean, the money in these 4-strokes are in the head, with valves and valve springs and all that stuff, valves, the copper seats and all that stuff. So, I mean, you're spending, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a head, whatever, the life of that motor is that intake system. And so we focus on that because, I mean, hell, like I said, we build motors, you guys build motors. That's the life of it. You got to make it work. And we spend a lot of time trying to figure that out, and it works really good. And that's how we do it.
The consumers that don't race need to listen to this because they're wondering why they're having engine issues on newer machines. Well, you got to keep the dirt out of them. Just because it's a 4-stroke doesn't mean you don't have to clean the air filter.
Right. And I'm sure you've seen it 1,000 times. Bike comes in, everything's clean on it. And then you pull the airbox lid and the filter is just full of mud, full of dirt. It's like, dude, all right, there's no way your engine's good if your filter looks like this. And 9 times out of 10, they're not.
No, and they're pissed.
Yep.
You get guys with a freaking 2019 YFC 450R, and they're having to do a complete engine rebuild because they let the filter be dirty. And I just look at them and go, I wasn't the guy maintaining it. You were. Don't be mad at me.
No, and that's the nice thing. I mean, we do, so we do a lot of race preps for customers. So we have customers that they don't want to touch their machine. They want to show up at the race and they want to race it. They don't want to have to worry about working on it, turning bolts and wrenches, and they don't want to mess with it. And so they pay us to maintain their bike. We wash them, we prep them, get them everything ready. We bring it to the race. They show up, they race it, get it all nasty, dirty, and hand it back to us. And here you go, get it ready for the next round. But, that's the beauty of it is it gets, we'll build the bike, we'll maintain the bike all season. Well, guess what? We have very minimal problems because we don't want to have time to be rebuilding our motors. We want to just be able to prep it and go to the next round. So we're making sure the filters are all nice. We got a good intake set up, and a good maintenance program that we do on these things. So, I mean, it's cut and dry. You show up, race, it's good to go. You don't have to worry about nothing. We're not having to rebuild motors constantly throughout the season because we're taking care of it. So it's all maintained properly. So, people want to pay for that.
I think it's the best way to do it, in my opinion. If you're going to have a rider or a racer or a customer like that, dude, I'll take it home and I'll bring it.
Yep.
And you just, I'll run the credit card before I leave, and there's, you got to explain them. If it breaks, it breaks. I mean, it doesn't mean that you're never going to have a failure.
Right. But the failure rate on what we do is so minimal. I mean, and I've had customers that came to us that go to races and they're sick of not finishing and breaking down. They're like, I'm spending all this money and spend all this time working on my bike. And then I go drive 8 hours to a national and then I break down the first lap. Well, they're pissed. So then they come to us. They're like, here, I don't want to do it anymore. I want you to do it because you guys have a very good successful rate out of it. So we start doing it. Now all of a sudden they're finishing every race and they're happy. Yeah. I mean, they're spending more money because they're paying somebody else to do their prep instead of them doing it. But now they're going to the races, showing up, and they're finishing. And now they can focus on their body, their preparation on their body, and they're practicing at home. And all they do is show up at the race because the race bike's ready to go. They don't have to mess with it. So that's been really big for us.
Yeah. When you were starting out or early into your pro career, did you ever see that coming?
No,
that you would be prepping bikes for racers?
Oh, never would have thought that. Never.
Yeah. I really got to the point where when I dealt with people, I wanted to maintain the bike. No, it's not going to your garage. It's coming to mine because I don't know what you're doing when I'm not there. Or if I'm going to drive to these events and be your guy at the races, I want to prep it. I want to know, and I want to know that it's ready to go.
Yeah.
You know, I just can't go spend all that time and not know that it's right.
Right. I know.
I mean, that's what I love. That's the way I love to do it, because it just, it gives you a better sense of how the weekend and the day is going to go. When you've prepped it, you touch it, you know what to look for when it rolls off after practice. I mean, I know you guys don't have practice, but out here on the West Coast, you do. And I mean, I like that. That is just such a bitchin' way to do it. You know, prep them all, take them, load them all up, take them, you know, and then the guys just come and get them and go race them and bring them back.
Yeah. I know. And it's been crazy, man. Like I said, we got a 40-foot enclosed trailer, and it's full every single round. And, you know, at the last couple rounds of the GNCC this year, I had more people coming up to me, and they're like, hey, do you got spots available next year? Because I want you to prep my stuff all year. And I'm like, I had people literally wanting to pay me in advance for the whole season for me to prep their bikes. And I'm like, whoa, I want your business and I want to be able to do it for you. But I mean, my trailer's full, and you know, you know how it is. It's like, in order to do everything correctly, you can only do so much, you know, and it's hard to tell those people no, but I had to, and I felt bad doing it, but you know, we were to the point it was going to be, you know, we were going to have to upgrade to a stacker or something bigger in order to do this. And then I have to look at it too at the shop, you know, are we capable of prepping 2, 3, 4 more bikes, you know, and you get too many, and then you know how it is, you know, your quality and all that stuff goes away. And I can't have that, you know?
Yeah. Cause once you lose that trust, it's over.
It's over.
You know, you lose it. You don't just lose it with one, you'll lose it with 50% of them. Right.
Yeah. And you can't.
No. And I totally get it. You know, you can't bite off more than you can chew. And it's so easy to do.
It is. It's easy to say yes. And that's part of the stuff in business that sometimes you have to learn to say no. It's hard as a business owner, but you know, sometimes you just have to say no. And I've been trying to teach myself that.
Right. So, hey, when you were racing, where was your favorite place to race?
You know, it was funny. My best finishes was places like Rouse Creek and the Wisp, which were super gnarly, like just rocky ski slopes and stuff like that. And so for some reason, I always did good there, the technical stuff. But I also do like I liked, you know, especially on the 4-strokes, I liked it when this track started getting a little more open and letting it hang out. And I always loved the motocross stuff, you know, and I always loved it when they would mix the moto in with the cross country, because, you know, I always like to jump and do some of that stuff. So, you know, I ran a few GNC motocross nationals as well, but, you know, they were few and far between. You know, I would normally finish in those races. I would finish like top 5 in the A class stuff back then. But I never got to do it as much as I wanted to.
You never ran the pro motocross stuff at all?
I never did. Not nationally, no.
So when you went from, I mean, a lot of times when they say you're a pro, you're a pro. So you transitioned from riding GNCC to GNC, and you're in the pro class.
Right. Yeah, they didn't make me run pro. I rode the A class though, and got away with it, like I said. And I would finish top 5 pretty, you know, normally pretty regularly there. But again, I didn't get to do it as much as I wanted to.
Why do you think they took the motocross portion out of the cross country races now?
I don't know. You know, every now and again they'll throw some in it, but it's very, very rare. And a lot of times they'll throw them in and they'll run it backwards, which I think is kind of crazy. It's like they'll run the moto track backwards sometimes, and makes it hard to jump stuff. And, you know, because it don't flow that way. But I don't know. I don't know if it's for safety reasons. I really don't know. I'm not sure why they've done that.
Well, the safety rating for woods racing is pretty high, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I think most racing is safer than your recreational riding because you're focused, you're intent on what you're doing, and
full gear.
Yeah, and being attentive to what you're doing is everything. When you're recreationally riding, sometimes you're screwing off with your buddies and you're not paying attention.
Yeah, very true.
That's just too funny. That is too funny. Did you ever get your 4 strokes to work as good as the Lobos?
Man, I'll be honest with you. The Lobo stuff is hard to beat. I'm going to tell you, the geometry and the way those bikes turned and the stuff that you could make those things do, I just don't know. I mean, I would like to know what the Lobo stuff would do with some of the knowledge that we have now. Like, the Lobo stuff was very advanced, especially for its time. I'm still not 100% convinced that the 4 strokes turn or work quite as good as they did. How do you feel?
I have mixed emotions because I feel that the success rate that I've had with the 4 strokes, because you figure I was a little at the end of the Lobo time when I started really focusing on being a mechanic and I built a bunch of the early stuff, but I was not as focused on being the race mechanic and doing the stuff that I did with the Lobos until closer to the end. And I really got focused on the 4 strokes.
Right.
And there again, I've spent most of my time with the Honda.
Yeah.
And the package that we have to race desert and off-road, I think is, if you look at the guys racing Hondas on the West Coast, it's a real similar style package because it works so well.
Right.
And when we go to Race Best of the Desert, or we go to Race Score, I just don't think you're going to beat our package. It's just, it's that good. And some people will argue with us and everything, but Felipe Valdez down in Mexico, who builds a lot of the Score bikes, you set them next to each other, and if you didn't know who built it, you almost couldn't tell.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's how close the packages are. And just hours and hours spent working and developing and, breaking it and fixing it and breaking it and fixing it. The same way we learned on everything.
Right.
But there again, I got the same shock guy.
Right.
I got the same suspension guy or the A-arm guy. My difference with what Doug did for the Lobo chassis is I have the gussets on my frames, on my Honda frames, different than he does. Right. He's has a lighter touch to it. My frames are a little heavier and a little more gusseted because I just can't deal with the brakes. Right. Yeah. I understand. They break. Yeah, and he has a little lighter touch with them because he's getting them. Well, you used to be able to get new frames all the time. Now you're not. So yeah, it's. I don't know if I've answered the question, but I'm pretty partial to that 450R package. It's just, really good. It's hard for me because I had so much success on the Lobo, because back like 2003, I was getting on the podium a couple times, and I'll never forget, they did an interview with Balance in a magazine, and they were like, who's your most feared for 2004? Well, hell, I was one of the guys he listed, and I was like, wow, I was kind of flattered. I'm like, wow, okay, and I really felt strong. I was super confident on it, and then in 03, I had the best year I ever had. And then they're like, oh, you guys have to run. They got a production rule now. You got to run a 4-stroke next year. Hell, okay, here goes all my R&D, all my testing, all my practice time that was done on a roll design bike. Now all of a sudden I got to switch to a 4-stroke. And I was just like, oh, hell,
what's going to happen here? And, we switched to the Yamaha. First round, we went to Texas. I finished fourth overall on the Yamaha. I was like, well, you know what? I missed the podium by, I think it was like 13 seconds or something in the pro class. And I was like, well, okay, maybe this four-stroke thing is going to be okay. And man, I like to tinker. And I always was trying to make the bike better. And my wife would always get on my ass. She's like, quit messing with the suspension and quit messing with it and just go race it. And I couldn't. I was constantly trying to make it better. And I fought the four-stroke all year. And I don't know if it got in my head or what, but I know the weight difference from the 450 to the 250. I had to work harder. So I had to work harder to make that 450 do what I could make my 250 do, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so it took more effort, and I just never could conquer that 450 like I could my 250. And so it made it hard for me.
It'd be great to take you back to that year with the knowledge level we have now of the four strokes, because your whole mindset would have changed because you were just riding it wrong. You were trying to ride it like a two-stroke.
Oh, I was always, they give me hell. They're like, you're over revving it. And I'm like, I can't help it. I always over revved and always clutched to 250 because that's what I had to do. And that's how the bike worked well. The four-stroke didn't work like that, but I was still trying to ride it that way.
Yep.
And you're right. I know.
Did you ever hear the story about Doug Henry, how they taught him how to ride a four-stroke?
No.
They turned his clutch levers up.
Really?
Yep. So he could use it to take off. But other than that, he couldn't use it because he was going through He was going through the clutches like they were free. And they're just like, no, that's not how you ride it.
Well, see, I did the same thing. I was hell on the clutch on the four-stroke, and I got in with Patrick over at Recluse, and I did a bunch of their clutch testing on their auto clutch stuff because he knew, we ended up being good friends, and he's like, dude, you're hell on a clutch. And I'm like, I know. And he's like, well, since you're so hard on the clutch, we want you to test like the Z-Star Pro and some of these clutches because we need to see if there's weak points and, if there's stuff that we can do to make them better. So I helped, with a lot of the testing on the Recluse clutch. And that was the reason why, is because I was just so used to that two-stroke and fanning the clutch all the time that I was killing the four-stroke clutches. And so I helped test a bunch of that stuff. So that was fun, but.
Yeah, I never got into the Recluse stuff. We always stayed conventional.
Yeah, for you guys, I mean, what you're doing, I don't know that the Recluse would have been beneficial. I really like their torque drive. The torque drive manual clutch is really tough. We have some guys that have we have some guys that have clutch problems on the four-stroke, and when we put them over to the torque drive with the extra plates and stuff, it like normally solves all those problems. So it's,
Yeah, I get it. It's just never something that I've ever tried to work towards, And, it's just every builder has their own soup.
Right.
With changing and the different styles of riding, I got spoiled with Eichner for so long, because that guy could ride anything you put under it.
Right.
And he came from, no offense, Doug, he came from junk,
right,
to quality stuff, and it took him a little while to adapt to the quality machine.
Right. Yeah.
Once he did, he just got faster.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a hard deal. When you were riding the two strokes, had they came out with the inserts for the tires yet?
No, I know like none of the tire block stuff was out at the time that we were riding two strokes. Maybe tire balls? Because no, you know what? Because no, it was after. Because I remember we was racing because back in 2003, my last year on the two stroke, because we ran like Rouse Creek and stuff like that. And hell, I remember we had probably that one race. I bet we had 6 or 7 flats, but they would we had to quick change studs, so we would have spare wheels and stuff, and the stud had, you know, the threads, and then at the last inch of stud was just it was kind of pointy and no thread. And then what we would do is we glued the lugs, like we glued extra lugs to the spare tires onto the rim where they would go. You would just take and buzz the old tire off, let the lugs fly off of it, yank the wheel, put the new wheel on it, and it would automatically locate the lugs. And then you just hit it with the impact, 4 lugs, bam, 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 and you're gone. So I remember in 03, we were still changing tires then. So the run flat stuff came after we ended up switching to 4-stroke. That was later.
I think that totally changed skill set riding.
I think, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the run flat stuff. I mean, you're carrying, now we can carry faster speeds and stuff through creek beds and stuff like that. But the fun part, I felt like, you had to have a good machine, you had to have a good rider, and you had to have a good pit crew. So now, like, the pit crews are kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're good, but like, all you got to do is gas and do goggles normally. There's usually not much more has to be done, so your pit crew, they got to be quick on that kind of stuff. But I don't know, it took some of the excitement out of racing when they came out with the run flat stuff.
Oh, totally. Because like in the desert, it's gas and go. If you're not having a gas and go day, you're not winning.
Nope. I know. I kind of miss that.
It made it much more interesting.
It did.
We started with the tire ball stuff and the tire blocks. Working with Kenny at Tire Blocks came later. I still have, I would say, pluses and minuses for each product, depending on which environment I'm going to, as to which one that I prefer to use at that given time.
Right.
And I remember when we were going back east and talking to a lot of guys, they would buy those balls from the
Walmart.
Yeah. Like instead of buying tire balls.
Yep.
Yeah. Instead of buying tire balls, they were buying those and putting those in there. Yeah. I think there's people still doing it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there are. Yeah, we see it from time to time.
Yeah. Johnny Gallagher's dad was telling me stories about it when we were back there at a Polaris intro. I mean,
yeah.
So some of the things that come about when you talk about it and when you do those things, it's pretty crazy.
It is. It really is. It's changed a lot, man. Changed a lot.
Evolution, has really, you see the logo behind me for GPR. I know you were a GPR guy for a long time.
Long time.
Have you seen the new stuff that he's put out?
I haven't. No, not in a while. No, it's been quite a while since I've talked to Ralph and Randy and them.
Ralph's older now and having some medical. He got injured stepping out of the trailer in a dark parking lot. He stepped into a hole, broke his leg, and it's just, at that age, it caused some issues. Still pretty coherent for the most part, from what Randy tells me. I haven't talked to Ralph in a while, but Mrs. Norman is still pretty with it and good. But Randy pretty much runs everything now.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, look at the new one, because they've totally changed the way they do it. And I can't say totally. They refined the mounting system, but the dampener they use is so much more durable. Oh my gosh. They got rid of the old vane system and went to a different kind of vane, and it has 6 or 8 screws that hold the vane in on the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's bigger, more like if you were familiar with any of their street bike stuff.
Yeah.
It was more of one of those designs. Better housing. I mean, it's just the whole thing's lighter, and it just works way better. Granted, I'm biased. Everybody knows I'm a GPR guy, and I'm not going to switch. I'm going to run that regardless.
Right.
Because I've had great success with them.
Oh, absolutely. They sponsored me for years and years and years.
Yeah.
They've always been good to me.
Randy's asked about you a couple of times.
Really, I need to call them. I need to call down there and talk to him. It's been a while.
Yeah, he's a little more like Ralph, a little more grumpy now because he's running the show and busy. Ralph was actually one of the nicest guys in the world once you got past the growl.
Yeah.
As soon as you got past the growl, he was purring like a kitten, and super nice.
I would get like random texts from him, like just out of the blue. Hey, how are you doing? And like, he was always so good to me. And I mean, we would see him at the dealer show up in Indy when they had that. And man, we would hang out and talk for hours, and just, they've always been such a good family, man. And I hate that you told me that he's not doing as good as he was, because damn, he was always after it. Every time I seen him, he was busy doing something.
I think he's 89.
89.
Yeah. I haven't talked to Randy in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I think he's 89. Because my pops is 80. My pops is 87.
87.
Yep.
Damn. It's a good life.
Still working in the shop, still running machines, still building things, not at the same pace, but still doing it.
That's why he's still alive.
Oh, yeah. So I was screwing off, setting up a set of hubs for a 250R, and I freaking had just a total brain fade on bolting the rotor on and snapped a bolt off. And I didn't have time to mess with it. And I just called Dad and I go, hey, you think you could come and take this out? So he comes by the shop, picks it up from me and brings it home so that he can work on it on his machine at home. And I don't think he was gone, but 30, 40 minutes. And he comes back and he's got that shit-eating grin on his face. And I'm like, okay, what's the deal? And he hands me the part and I ask him, so how long did it take you? And he goes, 4 or 5 minutes. Took me longer to set it up than anything.
That's so funny. That's awesome, though.
Oh, yeah. The touch that you have to take things out like that, it's such a learned skill, and not many of us have it. I mean, I struggle. He tries to teach me, and we're too impatient. He's super patient.
Yeah. I got a guy at the shop right now, James. We all call him. Everybody knows him by the Mad Scientist, but he's the same way, man. If anybody in the shop breaks off a bolt or something, or it's a complicated bolt or something like that that's broke off, it's like, hey, James, get over here. And he'll come over and he'll look at it and he'll go get his stuff out. And a couple minutes later, boom, he's got it fixed and everything's out, ready to rock and roll again. I'm like, damn, how do you do that? And it's just, but he has that knack to where he can do it like no problem. Where I'm going to go and I'm going to fight with that. So it's just better for me just to let him do it and I'll go do something else.
which Pops tells me over time, take your time, relax. It's like when you're putting a time cert in or anything like that, you need to take a step back, relax, and do it right. And take that time, because if you don't, you're going to have a problem. And then you're going to have to, all that time you think you gained, you lost, because you got to do the job again.
Right. Yep.
True. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing, some of this stuff that we get to learn,
Oh yeah.
I wish I would have paid more attention to some of the machining portions of it.
Right.
We have a CNC Tormek, which is it's like a home CNC mill.
Right.
And he didn't buy the 4th axis piece with it, mainly because he's cheap. Love him to death, but he's cheap. You get older, you get cheap.
Yeah.
He built it. He built the 4th axis portion to his mill himself.
Dang. That's impressive.
Yeah. And I'm just like, wow, I didn't understand what he was building at first. And when he got all done, I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Wow.
That's what you're doing.
It totally changes all the things that he wants to build.
Right.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Do you guys have a machine shop in your shop?
Not a whole lot. Some of the stuff I actually we have a place literally practically right down the road that does some of our machining for us. So it's I don't have the manpower. I mean, we have, it's 4 of us right now, but everybody's so busy doing all their stuff that I don't have any machine guys. So it's kind of hard for us to do that. We've been wanting to bring some of that in house, but I just haven't done it yet.
Right. I totally get it. It's hard. We were fortunate that Pop started us that way. We never went out and bought all the CNC machines like we should have. But
I know.
The conventional stuff, I think we have 3 or 4 mills and a couple, 2 or 3 lathes and boring bars and all that stuff. And all of it gets used every week. So
oh yeah. Yeah, and we did. Some of the guys have been on me, like, we need to get this stuff. And I know. I'm like, I know. I'm trying. I'm working to it, but I just haven't got it all done yet. We just recently moved, I say recently, it's been about a year now. We moved into a bigger shop. And so now we have the room. It's just, we're getting trying to get some other machinery and stuff that we need. And, because always you try to add on and get some of this nicer stuff so you can give customers better quality and stuff. And then when you do more stuff in house, obviously you have a little more control on, turnaround time and stuff like that, getting stuff back out to the customers quicker. So,
yeah, that's a big deal is turnaround time. And it seems like ever since all this, super cold thing that went around where we all couldn't work for a while. Well, I didn't miss a day. You probably didn't either.
Oh, we didn't. We never closed. Never. Nope. Like we kept rolling like nothing ever happened.
Same here, but the workforce changed in all of our supply houses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's like. You get most of your parts from Yamaha on the East Coast. Well, on the West Coast, they're like still on vacation.
Yeah, I know.
It's horrible.
There's been a lot of stuff that we've had a hard time getting, and the nice thing is though, the one is not really nice, but the nice thing is I've noticed though, people understand, if you tell them, hey, look, it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks before we get these shocks or whatever. They're like, okay, they understand. They know they're going to have to wait. So people have adapted to it, but I'm going to tell you, man, it's changed a lot of things. And, and now you got people that it seems like a lot of people now don't want to work either. They had that COVID break where they're not, working and all that. And they were like, oh, this is nice. And now it's like, hey, we're going to go back to work or what are we going to do? So
the people that worked through all of this are still working. And the ones that took it off don't want to come back. Yeah, I get it.
I know.
I was talking to somebody dude, you're talking, it's Lauren and I
know. I was sitting there thinking that, because I knew we were going to have this tonight and I was thinking about you guys and I knew one of our previous conversations, you said it was just you and him. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, it's me and 3 other guys, at the shop now. And I'm sitting there thinking, how in the world do you guys do it? Just you two. I'm like, my gosh.
Well, to elaborate a little bit, we got Dad. He comes in and helps a little. and we have Lauren's daughter and son that help a little bit, where they may get them for a couple hours one day a week,
Right.
just to ease some pain on organization of papers and filing the paperwork for specific jobs or making the job folders. And I have a couple other people that are part-timers that help with specific things, but for the most part, Lauren and I touch everything.
Wow.
It doesn't matter. I mean, we touch everything. I ship, and the guy putting the motor back in and doing the final prep and tuning it and sending it out the door. If you're building a complete bike, like a complete restoration, he touches his portion and I do my portion, and I do the full assembly and then the testing. And that's just how we do it.
Wow. That's impressive to get all that done, just you guys.
We still do a high volume.
But
it's hard. It's getting harder.
I know it's hard.
It's getting harder. A, because of the lag time of the parts, and B, because we're older.
Right. Yeah, I know it's hard to work. I've noticed the older I get, it's harder to work the hours I used to work.
Yeah.
And
I can't do the 15s or the 18s.
Right.
I can do a 12, no problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I can do that. I could probably do that 5 days a week. And then the 6th and 7th day, they're anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. As long as I don't overdo that, then I'm okay for the start of the next week.
Yeah.
But but I am older, and there are days you're like, it's just not going to happen today.
I know.
That engine ain't coming out of that chassis today.
Right.
It ain't happening.
No, I get it.
Man, it's a real pleasure to catch up with you. There's so many things there's so many more things that we didn't talk about that we needed to. We didn't get into some of the old history that I really wanted to, because you were around in an era of the change. You did ride a lot in the 250R era. And I really wanted to get into some of that 250R, the old school stuff where you raced with all those guys. Because I'm not saying it's not a stacked field now, because there's some fast guys, but you raced with a group of people that were damn fast.
Oh, dude, it was tough, man. It was on any given day. We were all battling. And I mean, you had Gallagher, which is still there today, and, Balance and Forts and Smiley and Coonley and, oh my God. Oh gosh, there was, you said, we had Page, and there was just so many that was so fast and had so much talent and they all had good bikes. And then you had the other guys that they were up there and they didn't have good bikes. And it's like, oh my God, if they had, the roll designs and stuff like we had, man, they would be a force to be reckoned with too, and, man, that was, it was stacked, and like you said too, it was technical and gnarly, you didn't have just all wide open tracks, back then. I mean, we were going across nasty rock stuff, and not saying the stuff's not tough now, but it was, back when we raced, it was hard.
Well, when you hear the stories, when Bob used to tell me that he's out there watching him, cut the trail with a chainsaw and a freaking machete the day before the race or a couple of days before the race, and you're just scratching your head that he cut him in, and it was just barely wide enough to get through there.
Oh yeah. Like, yeah, you squeeze through some of that stuff, beating and banging, like to get through it and making your way through. And yeah, it was definitely a lot more raw back then than what it is now.
Well, you can almost ride a little wider of a machine now, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you guys go ahead? I'm sorry.
There's people riding the new Yamaha, the 450R, at the stock width on them things and getting through the trail, especially at the nationals. I mean, they're pretty wide, you know.
How many local series are around you for the cross country stuff?
We have really just one main ATV cross country series. That was that Mid East series. They got a 16 race series every year that they do. And it starts up the weekend before the GNCC, and it ends like a couple weeks after the GNCC. So it goes for a while. But then there's a lot of other stuff. I mean, you have up in Indiana, you have IXCR and Crossroads. I mean, there's tons of cross country series stuff. And that was the weird thing. Like back when I raced too, every weekend you could find either a cross country race or a motocross race to go to. There was always stuff. The motocross stuff fell way off for some reason, and I don't know why. And I don't know if maybe you can shed some light on what happened there. But like even ATV National Motocross has not been what it used to be.
The track's closed.
Why though? Why did all these tracks? Like a lot of tracks around, a lot of MX tracks around here closed, and I don't get why.
Liability. They were in great places to put houses. I mean, there's a number of different reasons. I would have to probably say some of it is insurance and liability.
Yeah.
Everybody gets too happy.
If you would have asked me, years ago, what would your outlook be in 10 years? And I would have thought, I actually always thought, I'm like, what, cross country will be the first to ever go away, and motocross would be like always superior, because motocross was such a spectator friendly sport. You could go show up at a motocross race and you can see the whole race. You can sit there in the stands and see practically the whole race. Whereas the cross country wasn't as spectator friendly, So I was like, well, hell, motocross is always going to be bigger. But then it ended up not being that way. It's like I feel like the cross country is so much stronger than the MX right now.
Good old boys.
Yeah.
Good old boys can go ride a cross country race with their friends. And it's one day. You're in, you're out. You don't have to be the fastest guy in the world to race a cross country race. You got to be able to hold on for your 2 hours. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Some guys can race stock bikes. There's classes for all levels. And I think it's more of I'm not saying that the motocross isn't a family environment, but the environment you have with the GNCC people is not the same environment that you have with the motocross people.
No, I know. I've been at both, and you're right. Like the cross country is like everybody's like a big family. It's like, oh, I need something. Well, hell, you can go over there and ask probably the guy right down the pits from you. Hey, you got this? And, oh yeah, I have this, and they'll loan it to you right then and there. I noticed like the motocross guys they're not always that friendly there.
When I was back in at Briarcliff, the people were so warm and inviting. I was taken back by how awesome it was, and I haven't got to go to a GNCC race in quite a while. Right. I want to go back and do a press conference back there, but I have to get some permission. There's some other things that not everybody knows about that you have to do to make that happen. And I would love to do it. It's finances. So if anybody's listening to this that knows, I always need financial help to get back east to talk and cover. But it would be so awesome to go. And I just know that the crowd from the morning race to the afternoon race, by the way I've been treated by some of the guys that I've never met face to face, but they've just been so nice to talk to.
Oh yeah.
Johnny Gallagher, Walker Fowler, those guys will talk to anybody. But Austin Absolutely. Abney, Cody Collier, yep. These guys have just went out of their way to be super nice. And Cody, I could call him right now and he'd probably talk. Right. And it's a lot of fun because he used to be a sport quad guy. Now he's a 4x4 guy and he's 4x4 champion. It's awesome.
Right.
Matter of fact, I'm going to have to call him up and talk to him about that because I was texting back and forth that the season was coming to an end, and I was, giving him a shout out, on, dude, it's getting closer. You're doing great. You're doing great. Just keep it up. And
he had a great season for sure, hands down.
Yeah. Landon wanted to come on the show. His schedule just doesn't allow it. But I'll get him eventually, and talk to him because he's a super.
This morning.
Oh, really? Well, you need to kick him in the shin.
Yeah,
for me.
Landon come by. Yeah, I could have. He come by this morning and done some stuff, and then he's headed back home now. But
when you see him, you freaking tell him, "Hey, you need to take care of this." Because I enjoyed. I had him on one of the live shows that I did, and he was, just super knowledgeable, super great guy to talk to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all of them are, and you talk to the works guys that I get to talk to. They're actually elevating their game. I think almost they didn't need it, but it helped them. The East Coast guys coming out, gave them some validity. And when you get an East Coast guy like Max Lindquist come off the track and go, "God, that was fun. I've got to do it again." And it just kicked my butt, but I got to do it again.
Right. Yeah. I actually came out and done a works race in Arizona. And man, I'm going to tell you, if I could have been able to afford to run that whole series, I would. I love that style too. Just letting it all hang out. And, you'll run a desert section for a while. Then all of a sudden you'll hop onto the motocross track and just, send it and stuff. And man, that was like, God, I enjoyed that. I had a ball out there.
What year did you get to race?
Oh my God. It was, I rode it. I know it's crazy. It was a year. God, I raced I rode the Can-Am DS 450 is what I rode. Mm-hmm. And I had one, we come out there and race. And for the life of me, I cannot remember what year that was, but we ran one of the Arizona rounds, and damn, it was so much fun. I just remember it was a lot of fun, and I had a motocross track in it. And that's all I can remember.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I quit traveling to all of them. Actually, in 2019 was my last full season. I dabbled a little in 20, a little in 21, and probably. It's going to take something special to get me back.
Yeah.
I mean, once you lose I don't even know what you want to call it, but it's kind of like stopping racing.
Right.
Once you lose the road legs, they don't come back.
No, I know.
And I miss it. I know when it's race day.
Yeah.
And I have to preoccupy myself with something else because you get a little fidgety and you get to still a little nervous. But you're not there. It's not, there's nothing you can do. If somebody calls you with a problem, you can't help because you're not there.
No, I know. And that's where I'm a little different as because I go to every round of GNCC. So I'm there at every single round helping people and stuff. So, I enjoy watching. Damn, I still miss being out there, competing on the line and stuff. You'll never replace that. We never will, no matter what we do.
We get on a 4-wheel drive and go to race in the 4-wheel drive class in the morning.
I don't know. I like the 4-wheel drive, but the 450, you can't jump the 4-wheel drive like you can a 450 and throw it around. And it just the 4-wheel drive didn't really suit my style. We do.
Dude, you need to talk to Landon because Landon and Cody. And I apologize. I forgot the other gentleman's name. Those guys freaking throttle those. I can't believe how well they ride them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Hayden Mickelson, he's another one. We build all his stuff. Yeah, that's him. Yep, we do all his stuff, and we're actually building a brand new one for him for 2023 now. So, yeah, those guys, they can ride. It's impressive to really be there and watch them ride.
that big of a machine, that
Yes.
heavy, Cody said something about you're not using the same type of body English that you do on a sport quad,
No.
but you are still having to move it. And
Right.
you have to learn how to use your leverage to get it to move it, especially at a high rate of speed.
Right. It's impressive. I'm telling you, if you've seen them race that thing in person and you stand there and watch them come through and do some of the things they do on those, it's very impressive. Like, very impressive.
I became a fan over the last couple of years. I got to spend some time talking to Mike Penland. And whether you like him or hate him or whatever, that dude is super knowledgeable, super down to earth. And if you get a chance to really talk to him, he is a smart guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been around for a long time.
Oh, didn't he's done some stuff that I never knew that he did, motor stuff and basically changed the configuration of the engine to suit what they wanted to do with it. Got the Kawasaki guys involved in doing some engine development changes, things like that. I mean, he's a pretty awesome guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, dude, we have been blessed to be involved in an industry and have the time to do the things that we've gotten to do that the normal people don't even get it.
No, and that's the thing. Like you said, we've had so many opportunities that we never would have had if I was in another industry. I mean, we do a lot of stuff for Jason Stewart and Action Off-Road and stuff. And we build like his Baja side-by-sides and all. We go out and, he flew us out and, we went out to Mexico and ran the Baja and, it's damn, like that's a hell of a trip and an experience. If you've never got to go down that, I mean, it's something I recommend anybody that ever had the chance to go because I mean, we would have never got to experience that if it wasn't for Jason and being in this industry. And, that was, man, it was so much fun. And, and I think we're going back again soon. We're building a new car and stuff like that for them. And, so yeah, I mean, we've gotten a lot of opportunities that we never would have gotten if I wasn't in this industry. So, are we getting rich? No, but damn, we're sure, we're having a lot of fun doing it though.
Well, so I said something to somebody the other day that, I got a lot of stories to tell. And if I could make money telling those stories, I would, because the industry or the times didn't pay, what normal people would call a normal living.
Right. You're very, very true.
I mean, I made some good money on some of the things that I got to go do, but the other stuff, you did it for free, basically.
No, right. Because, and I did it the same way. It's like, I wanted, like, the experience was worth plenty. You know what I'm saying? To get to do something.
I do. Chasing your machine from Ensenada to, Cabo San Lucas and spending a day or two down there. That's priceless.
Priceless that most people are never going to get to experience, but we got to experience that.
And most people that don't live on the West Coast are never going to experience it.
No. So we've definitely been blessed to be in this industry. That's for sure.
Exactly. Hey, Santo, I want to thank you so much for spending some time. I know that I chased you for a while and pestered you to come on the show. But I really appreciate it. And I know there's so many things that we didn't talk about. So I want to extend the invitation that at some point to bring you back and we can cover some of the things that we didn't catch this time.
Absolutely. I'd love to do it again. I've actually really enjoyed it for sure.
Well, I'm glad. That's the whole point.
You didn't pester me. It's just like just stopping long enough to take time to do things. You know how it is. I mean, this life gets so busy, but this was something that I wanted to do, and I know you wanted to do it, and yeah, it's good for the industry, and it's I think it's cool what you do and stuff like that. It's very inspirational,
Well,
we need more of that.
It's guys like you that help grow the sport, and our relationship goes back almost 30 years. And we don't get to talk every day, but it's pretty great that the moment that you start talking, it's like it was yesterday.
Unreal. Like I'm not gonna lie, I've never done this before, and I was kind of a little nervous. I told my wife, before it started, I'm like, I'm kind of nervous, and she's like, "You'll be okay. You'll do fine." And it's like you said, like we got going on, and it's like, damn, it just like flowed, like no problem. Everything went perfectly easy and smooth, and I was like, well, okay.
It's just, I tell everybody, it's just a conversation,
right?
I don't interview anybody. I don't want to interview anybody. I want to have a conversation with you.
Right. No, it definitely makes it easier to do.
I got to talk to Brandon. I got to talk to Brandon Hogue. And let me tell you, that kid is off the charts intelligent. And he was talking about things. I understood the concept, but some of the tech words that he used, I have no idea what he was saying. I just understood that he was talking about, measuring things that have to do with the body and everything. But for a young racer that young to know those things blew my mind.
That's awesome, though. That's good.
Yeah, dude, it's totally different than when we were doing it and the things that we were talking about and the things how we were training. Chad Weenan trains at that level. So does Walker and, Bryson Neal, that kid. I can't wait to get a chance to talk to him because I have so many questions, but
such coming a good off kid, man. I'm going to tell you, you'll enjoy that with Bryson.
Dude, I've been chasing him for over a year.
Really, he's a good kid, man. When you get him on, he's a good guy. And, we helped him for a couple of years early in his career. And man, still to this day, like, he's like, he'll always tell me, man, you're a part of this, you're no matter, even though you're not helping me now, he's like, you're still a part of my success today. And I'm telling you, he's a good kid, good family, man. And he put a hell of a ride in this year.
He came off the couch from an injury to a champion. And I was just blown away.
Amazing. Kids in great shape.
First ride of the year was incredible. Wow.
I know.
Because Walker led the most laps.
Yep.
But Bryson got the most wins.
Yep. He's fast, man, to watch him come from behind and catch up. Because I remember, usually if you're not up there towards the front at the start, it was always almost impossible to catch the lead guy. But he's on that level to where now he can have a bad start and put his head down and push, and he can still catch, the lead guy and put in a battle for the end of the race. And that's, he's in that good a shape, and he's on that level now, and he's going to be hard to beat next year for sure. Everybody's going to have their hands full with him.
I got to talk to Walker, and, he came out here to the West Coast, and he did really well in the invitational race. And then he went out and won the works race. And I think winning that works race rejuvenated him.
Good.
Because he was so excited. And he goes, yeah, we could start the season right now. I'm ready.
Yeah, he's definitely always been very good with, his focus, and, he never did it bother him? Yeah, it bothered him, but like he always used that as fuel for the next round, and he never let it really get to him and get him down, So you can never count Walker out ever, because he's always going to put that battle in.
We'll see next year on how it shapes up and shakes out for Walker and Bryson. I think there's a couple of the young guys back there too that are going to Galato Jr., Cole Richards. Austin Abney. These guys are, and I know I'm leaving guys out. Sorry, Adam McGill,
Right.
McClure, Borch.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many guys. Josh Merritt. I think Josh Merritt just is missing one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And he could launch to the front.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They're all capable. All of them. It's just finding that program and that certain thing that's going to put them on the level that they need to be on to win.
Exactly. Wow. It's going to be exciting 2023.
I think so. I can't wait.
I am cautiously optimistic of who to pick as a winner on all three of the major series, because there's going to be some just new stuff coming. And on the West Coast, you got some young kids that are hungry and fast. You got Bo aging a little bit, he's old enough to be some of their dads.
Right.
You have Bryson, who's just energized by winning a championship, and Walker hungry to win it back. And then you have the other guys that are like, hey, don't forget about us.
Right.
And then you get to go to the motocross side, where you have the 8-time champ pissed that he lost his number one.
Yep.
He's in the twilight of his career when he should be slowing down. And he's like, no, I want the number one back. And Hetrick, who is just seething with, no, this is mine and I'm going to keep it. And I can name off 4 or 5 guys in the motocross that dude, I wouldn't shake a stick at any of them. I mean, you got Bryce Ford, who just won the 10 grand and rode for Team USA. I just mentioned Brandon Hogue, who's super smart. He's hungry. Max Lindquist has got some stuff, shaking down a tree to ignite a fire, and he could do it. You got the veteran in Rastrelli.
Yeah.
Dude, at any given moment, he could do it. Nick Janus is no slouch. He's got some new fire under him this year. So, I mean, and then you have a whole bunch of young guys in the motocross that are coming up too, that could surprise everybody. Some new rookies that are coming.
Yeah. No, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a great year for racing for sure, and like I said, there's going to be a lot of people up there battling, and there's going to be a lot of people hungry.
The team here at ATV-TALK would love your feedback. Please email us at hello@atvtalkpodcast.com. If you're in need of a consultation for your current racing program, a custom ATV, or an industry guest speaker, I have the company for you. Duncan Technologies International, Inc. offers host, MC, and guest speaking services at events. Builds custom ATVs for recreational riding or racing around the world. And they offer consulting services for professional teams or individual racers. Send inquiries to duncantechinternational@gmail.com or call 619-716-1532 for more information. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to share us with your family and friends. The podcast is available on all streaming platforms, and you can find us on social media as ATV Talk Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter